僕らは宇宙のまで知らないゼロの弦の開くの全ては粒となり再生するそれなら途切れそうな意識もつなぎ止めてみせるよあの時間あの場所で君の時がもう一度始まる
Hello there everybody, Sabana92 aka Nightmare, and welcome back to Steins Gate Zero. In the last episode, we had possibly one of the best shining moments of Daru that I think I have ever got the opportunity to witness. My god, that punch that he landed to Okabe felt good. Good job on you, Daru. You have successfully placed yourself upon the top list of my favorite Steins Gate characters just for that awesome moment. Seriously, that really shows how much freaking Daru, the Super Hacker, holds back. Anyway, bad news, Mayuri happened to hear everything, and we might be in a bit of some issue. We might be having some trouble here. Yes, it is.
The summer solstice had passed, and by 6 p.m. the sun was finally setting behind the city's skyline. Part of the sky was still red and the rest a dirty blue. For the past few days, Suzuha had worked on the time machine on top of Radicon. It was almost time for her to go back to the past, which meant she was putting a lot more effort into the maintenance work. Parts which could normally get dirty with no trouble had been polished to a sparkling shine.
気負いすぎてるかな。やっぱり不安なのか。
She finished her work, put her tools back in the box, and stored the box in the time machine's cockpit. Then she sat down in the control seat and took another look at the battery gauge. With the amount of fuel she had left, in less than a month, she wouldn't be able to go back to July 27th, 2010. She had to leave this era before that time limit passed her by. The original plan of taking Rentaro to the past looked like it was going to fail. That meant she would have to go on the mission that she'd spent the last years coming up with all by herself.
それにしても、父さんってば、これはないよな。
She chuckled to herself and stuck her hand deep into the computer core. Inside was an external hard drive that clearly belonged to 2011, not 2036. Itaru had probably put it here when her back was turned. Let's see. One of the secondary touch panel monitors was displaying a warning that read foreign object detected in cockpit. These machines were capable of breaking through early 21st century camouflage in less than a second. It was clear from the way the fake wires were laid out that monitoring and data retrieval were not its objectives. He'd probably hidden it here because he didn't want anyone to find it. Maybe she should just pretend she didn't see it and leave it here until she was just about to leave. As she pondered the best course of action, she heard the heavy door outside opening. Someone was here. Suzuha pulled her gun from its holster and looked out from the cockpit toward the iron door that led into the building. She still remembered what happened with Kaguri the other day. It couldn't hurt to be careful, but when she saw who it was, she relaxed. Hey.
まゆ姉さん、珍しいね。ここへ来るなんて。
She put her gun away and jumped out of the cockpit to welcome her.
すずさん。泣いてるの？何があった？
Suzuha had no idea why the always smiling Mayuri would be crying.
どうしてみんなは教えてくれなかったのかな。え？クリスさんっていう人とマユシーとの本当のこと教えてくれなかったのかな。
She almost spoke, but quickly cut herself off. How did she hear? And from whom? The cruel truth that Mayuri's survival depended on Makise Kurisu's death. There was nothing in the world Suzuha had wanted to see less than the look of Mayuri's face when she discovered that.
誰 に聞いたの。
But there were only a few people who knew the truth. Excluding herself, only Rentaro, Itaru, Ferris, and Maho. And none of them would deliberately tell her. In fact, they'd all hidden it for her sake.
オカリンと真帆さんが話しているのを聞いちゃった。
Then it was an accident after all.
ねえ、すずさん、お話聞いてもいい？ 2036年のマユシーとオカリンのこと。
Suzuha wasn't sure to say. To be honest, she didn't want to say anything at all. It wasn't something that would make her feel better.
未来のことは知らない方が幸せだよ。
Another line of tears spilled down Mayuri's cheek.
マユシーなんてね、この世界にいても何の役にも立たないよ。
Don't say that.
クリスさんの方が世界のためにもオカリンのためにもずっと必要なんだよ。
Oh, come on, don't say that. Suzuha suddenly felt like she was looking at the Mayuri she'd known in the future. She thought of the big sis Mayu that she'd seen ever since she was a little girl, and she couldn't refuse her request.
私の知ってる未来のマユ姉さんも時々そう言ってた。そんな時は決まってぼんやりと空を眺めてるんだ。すごく寂しそうで切なそうだったよ。私もかがりもマユ姉さんのそんな顔を見るのが辛かった。かがり？
It was only then that she remembered she'd been keeping Kagari a secret from Mayuri.
かがりっていう名前の女の子がいたんだ。繊細孤児でさ、まゆ姉さんが引き取ったんだ。だからまゆ姉さんの娘っていうことになる。まゆしの娘。優しくてでも強い子でね。まだこんなに小さいうちからいつも言ってた。ママを守るのは自分だって。
Oh my god, I don't even think about this for a second. The amount, like, this is a lot to hear all of a sudden in one day. I can't even imagine what the hell she's going through right now.
そんな子だったから母親であるまゆ姉さんが寂しそうにしてるのはかなり答えてたはず。そういえば7月7日、今日って七夕って言うんだってね。
Yeah.
私は子供の頃にまゆ姉さんから教わったんだ。織姫と彦星が年に一度会うことができる日だって。大気汚染がひどくて星なんて見えない時代だったけど、まゆ姉さんは言ってたよ。雲が夜空を覆っていても星は世界から消えちゃうわけじゃない。雲の向こうで変わらずに輝き続けてるの。だから一緒にお祈りしようね。そんなまゆ姉さんの言葉が私やかがりには希望になったんだ。それだけは知っておいてほしい。少なくとも私やかがりにとってはまゆ姉さんが必要だった。それにオカリンおじさんだって 死ぬまでまゆ姉さんのことを大事にしてたんだ。まゆ姉さんの幸せのことばかり考えていたんだ。死ぬまで。
Oh yeah, that's another thing that you maybe should not have. Damn it.
Maybe that was another cruel truth for her. But Suzuha decided that she would hold nothing back now.
そうだよ。
Well, technically he's not dead, but no, that's fine. She doesn't know that.
オカリンおじさんは今から15年後までしか生きられない。まゆ姉さんをかばって死ぬんだ。嘘。オカリンおじさんは最後にこう言ってたって父さんに後から聞いた。まゆりの命を助けることができて本当に良かった。自分はまゆりを守るために生きてきたんだから。そんな。
Mayuri put both her hands over her mouth.
でもまゆ姉さんはそのことをずっと引きずっていたんだろうな。私たちには見えないところでこっそり七夕の空を見上げてつぶやいてた。あの日私の彦星様が復活していたら全てが変わっていたのかな。あの日私の彦星様、私の。
Mayuri was repeating the words to herself. The tears were still pouring down her face, but her sad cries finally came to a stop. She was still shaking, but her voice had gotten quiet.
どういうことなのかな。私今ならわかる気がする。1年前私オカリンおじさんの態度に本気でムカついたんだ。チャンスが目の前にあるのになんで諦めるんだって。そんなオカリンおじさんをかばって甘やかしてるまゆ姉さんのことも本当は許せなかったんだよね。でもさ、この1年ここで暮らしてみて感じたんだ。あの時間違ってたのは私の方だったって。今ならあの日のオカリンおじさんともっとちゃんと話せるかもしれない。あの日。それでうまく説得できるかどうかそこまでは自信ないんだけどね。
As the sun set in the west, the shadow of the time machine lengthened, and Suzuha's along with it.
私に残されたチャンスはあと一度だけ。それなら未来のまゆ姉さんの言葉にかけてみようと思う。マキセ・クリスが殺された日じゃなく、まゆ姉さんの言ってたあの日へ飛んでまゆ姉さんの望みを叶えられるかどうか試してみる。まゆしの望み。
Suzuha gently rubbed Mayuri's tiny little shoulders.
それがシュタインズゲートへ向かう鍵だって信じてみる。シュタインズゲートを開くことができるのは彦星をやめちゃった普通の星じゃなくって、まゆ姉さんの彦星しかいないような気がするからさ。つまり私が新たに考案したミッションは彦星の復活。
Bring Hikoboshi back to life.
父さん流に言うならオペレーションアルタイルとかオペレーションアークライトとかそれとも アルタイルとアークライトを結ぶって意味でオペレーションデネブかな。
Eb?
父さんほどのセンスは私にはないみたいだ。
You're good enough. Mayuri tried to draw herself up as best as she could on wobbling legs.
ねえ、すずさん、そのオペレーションマユシーにやらせて。
Suzuha stared at the girl in front of her, unable to believe what she just heard.
これは危険な賭けだ。私の考えが間違ってて失敗するだけかもしれない。タイムマシンにも限界が来てて、いつ制御不能になるかわからない。そのまま消滅してしまうかもしれない。それでもお願い。マユシーだってラボメンなんだよ。オカリンとダル君に助けてもらってばっかりなのはまあ嫌だよ。
Yeah. Mayuri rubbed her eyes hard and wiped away her tears. Life was slowly returning to her frail body.
マユシーね、オカリンのことが好き。多分クリスさんと同じぐらい。違う、絶対にクリスさんに負けないくらいずっと大好き。
I never... I know that's a fact.
けど私は法院京馬がもっと大好きなの。私がおばあちゃんを亡くしてこの世界から消えてなくなっちゃいそうになってた時、そんな私に向かってこの世界にずっといろって言って救ってくれたの。それが彼なの。私の彦星様なの。私ね、もう一度彼に会いたい。あの偉そうな高笑いをまた聞きたい。
Y'all do.
たとえ私が織姫様になれないって分かってても、それでも私にとっての彦星様はこれまでもこれからもずっと彼以外にはいないんだもん。法院京馬に会いたいよ。
The girl who could never be Orihime shouted all of her feelings to the world at the top of her lungs. And right in that instant... Suzuha heard a sound from her cell phone that she'd never heard before. Hmm?
これは...
Hmm? It was the sound of a video message. When she saw the sender and subject line, Suzuha gasped.
これ未来からのムービーメール。
Oh. No! Is that the video from future Okabe? Oh boy.
I stuck my hand.
Wait, is that the deep? No, wait. My head hurts.
I stuck my hand against the wall of the Brawn Tube workshop to catch my breath. There was no sign of Mayuri. I'd gone to Mei Queen Yan Yan into any shop I could imagine her visiting and had no luck. Maho came back. She was out of breath too.
ダメ、 辺りをぐるって回ってみたけど見当たらないわ。
The panic was threatening to make me lose control.
Where'd you go, Mayuri?
誰見つかったか。
I'd asked Daru to stay behind and call all of her friends and people she knew.
オカリン、それが
どうした。
電話つながらないんだよ。
前よりなら俺も何度もかけてみたが電源を切ってるみたいで。
違うんだ。マユシだけじゃなくて他のどこにもつながらない。つうかずっとスマホが圏外になったままでさ。
なんだって。
What? I took out my own phone. You have no service?
俺のも圏外だ。
私もだわ。
What the?
The lab had never suffered from bad signal before. We went up to the roof and even tried holding our phones up to the sky, but the result was the same.
屋上でもダメだ。
外に出ても繋がらないわ。
Daru looked for news on the internet. Thankfully, the internet connection was still active.
お、速報出た。
There was an article on the top page of Taboo talking about a large-scale cell phone service outage.
え、つうか、なんぞこれ。秋葉原一帯の基地局が全キャリア故障。
That's why?
全キャリアってそんなことありえるの？
Oh no.
It didn't seem possible to me, not under normal circumstances anyway. The events of a year ago, in the Alpha World line, flashed through my mind. That night, when Mayuri was mercilessly killed, and all the safety I'd ever believed in was stripped away. That night, when all the pain began, started with the bomb threat at Akihabara Station that had shut down the train system.
人為的な工作。
Something terrible was about to engulf Akihabara. That was the feeling I had. I tried my best to fight off the flashback. Now wasn't a time to be scared. I needed to find Mayuri. I couldn't leave her alone out there. I gritted my teeth to fight off all the trauma I was carrying and raised my head.
ダル、ネットは生きてるんだよな。
あ、うん。だから LINE 経由でルカシやアマネシとは連絡取り合ってる。
Okay, then they should be willing to help to look for Mayuri.
俺ももう一度辺りを探してくる。
待った。実はもう一つ気になることが。電波障害のことをアットちゃんで調べようとしたらさ、現在進行形でお買い手がクラックされてて、そのクラッキングしてるやつがさ、ほら。
Cracking? A term used to describe actions such as illegally accessing a network-linked computer or modifying its data, often confused with hacking, but originally hacking was described as using and investigating a piece of software. Really? Cracking, however, refers to a malicious, unauthorized activity. Most times when the term hacking is used by the media, this is what they actually mean. I did not know that! Daru brought up the A channel page on a screen for me to see. I wondered why it could possibly matter, but decided to take a look anyway.
これは
What the? Salieri's neighbor! That was the nickname I'd used to make contact with Kurigohan and Kamehameha!
何なの？
I decided to leave the explanation for later and clicked on the thread. It was all comments by a single person. What? What the?
栗ご飯とカメハメハ。
Whoa, 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 hold! It appears that we twins will now be temporarily driven from the place where we belong, so I may not be able to come back here anymore. Our Father in heaven has developed a way to force open our most secret places. Now we shall become good children, his children who cannot tell lies, and thus we'll be forced to tell him of the secrets of controlling time, and where those secrets lie. It is a great sorrow to me that I cannot protect those secrets. I had hoped we could be good friends, but this is probably goodbye. So lastly, I'd like you to pass a message to the person I respect the most. An essentially ordinary intellect. Tell her that she was always the person I wanted to be. Tell her that she was the real Amadeus. The first comment had gone up an hour ago. After that, it was just an endless string of meaningless numbers and letters. Maha was looking at the screen from the side and evidently sensed that something was amiss from the text. I answered her. Do you think she did it? But why? Unless she's being used. This was some kind of message. She was trying to contact me with it.
タイムマシンじゃね？
タイムマシンの情報が誰かに漏れたのか？
Ah, shit.
つうか、なんでアマデウスがタイムマシンの情報知ってんの？オカリン喋ったん？
Did I? I didn't think I told her when I was a tester, but there was no time to think about that now.
ヒヤジョさん、アマデウスにアクセスできるか？
規則違反になるけど、そんなこと言ってる場合じゃなさそうね。橋田さん、その PC 借りていい？
Maho took Daru's seat and used his PC to access the Brain Science Institute's computers. She put in her ID, Saliri, and her password. She pushed the enter key, but Amadeus didn't appear.
いつもと違うわ。どういうこと？
Uh-oh. Confused, she typed a series of commands into the PC with a speed that rivaled Daru's. But no matter what she did, the Amadeus program didn't appear on her screen. When she'd finished accessing every server at the Institute, she stared at the computer and bit her lip.
こんなバカなことって。
Oh dear.
どうした？
ないの。アマデウスのプログラムが記憶データごとどこにも存在していない。
Oh shit, they made their move. Just like the message from Kure Gohan and Kamehameha.
ハッキングしろ。脳科学研究所だけじゃなく、ビクトル・コンドリア大学にあるデータを全部こじ開けてくれ。サーバーから個人の PC まで全部だ。
オキドキ。
You do it, Daru!
ヒヤジョさんも協力してくれ。頼む。
Okay, shit has officially hit the fan. But the answer was the same. Not only the Amadeus Kurisu, but the Maho as well were nowhere to be found on the Victorchondria servers. There was no trace of them. Their very existence had been erased.
どこか別の場所に移されたとか？
そんなの無理だわ。アマデウスシステムに関してそんな管理者権限を持ってるのはレスキネン教授だけよ。
Stratfor.
レスキネン教授。
My mind flashed back to the message from Kure Gohan and Kamehameha. Who was the Our Father in Heaven whom Kurisu had spoken of? If Amadeus considered anyone a father, it would be... him.
まさかレスキネン教授が。
憶測で物を言わないで。それよりも教授の ID とパスがクラックされたと考える方がよっぽど現実的よ。
レスキネン教授に連絡をつける方法はあるか？
The phones weren't working, and there was no way to tell when he'd seen an email or if he'd respond. Maho was thinking hard, but it didn't seem like she was having any luck. We were getting nowhere. I was concerned about Mayuri, but I couldn't ignore the danger that was right in front of me.
とりあえずラジカンへ行ってくる。クリスの警告通りなら狙われるのはあそこだ。
僕も行く。
お前とヒヤジョさんはここで情報収集だ。マユリが戻ってくるかもしれないから。 ただし何かあったらすぐに逃げろよ。
I gave my orders and ran out of the lab towards Rodicon.
That's the video, isn't it?
Suzuha hit the play button on her smartphone's video display. The video was heavily compressed and covered in static, but she recognized the person that appeared. It was a face she'd known her whole life, a face that had been with her both in her past and her present. The man, who she still remembered holding her up in the air as a child, was probably about 35 in the video.
や、鈴葉、元
お
気かい？父さんだよ。こちらは2025年だ。
Oh, it's Daru. Whoops. Wrong video!
いろいろ
Barrel
な
tied
ことを
toward right.
隠してしまって本当に申し訳なく思う。許してくれ。頼む。このムービーメールが届いたということは、君は、いや、君とマユシは、シュタインズゲートへの道をまた一つ見つけてくれたということだ。つまり計画は、次の段階に移行したわけさ。なぜ最初から全部指示しなかったのかと君は怒るかもしれないな。でも指示しなかったんじゃないんだ。できなかったんだよ。君が出発した世界線の僕はこれから話すオペレーションを計画していなかったはずだからね。もう気づいているかもしれないが、君とマユシの選択によって世界線はまた少し変動したんだ。
Yep.
つまり僕も君が出発した世界線とは違う別の世界線上の橋田至るということになる。でも鈴葉、どうか勘違いしないでほしいんだ。僕はどんな世界線においても娘ラブだからね。ちなみにどうだい？比べてみてどっちのパパの方がダンディーかな？
Damn it, Daru.
僕は最近筋トレを始めたんだけどさ。ふふん。
誰？くだらないこと言ってないで。さっさと作戦内容を話せ。
Okami!
まったくだわ。どうせまた三日坊主で終わるんだから、どうでもいい報告はしないで。録画できる時間が終わったにゅ。
Everybody's in the video!
まあまあ、そうせかすなって。つうことで、このムービーメールの本来の目的に移ろう。オペレーションアークライトの詳細を伝える。
Operation Arclight.
これは本当に一瞬のミスも許されないギリギリの戦いになる。心して聞くんだ。いいね。
Suzuha paused the video there. If he was telling her to pay attention, it must be important. If she was going to memorize it all, she needed to calm down. To be honest, getting a video from her dad in 2025 had made her really excited. It felt like her father was telling her that the plan she'd come up with on her own was the right one. That's why she needed to pay careful attention. Oh, Mayuri was standing by herself, typing something into her phone as fast as she could. When the video had arrived, she told Mayuri that they may have to leave for the past today. There must have been some reason the video was sent today at this time. That's how it seemed to Suzuha.
何してるの？
Hmm?
あ、すずさん。どう？今日出発することになりそう？作戦概要はこれから確認するつもり。そっか。あのね、もし今日出発するってなったら、マユシーは行方不明になっちゃうわけでしょ？心配かけたくないから、お父さんとお母さんと、あとお友達みんなにメールを書いておこうと思って。おかりんおじさんくらいには直接伝えられる時間があればいいけどね。
She would be done going over the mission and deciding on a course of action by sunset, probably.
おかりんにもメール書いたから大丈夫。メールでいいの？うん。
Mayuri smiled and nodded. There were no more tears in her eyes, but you could still see wet lines drawn down her soft pink cheeks.
なんだか恥ずかしいから。でもね、せっかく書いたメールだけど送れないかもしれないなーって今ちょっと困ってたところなのです。
なんで？
電波圏外になってるんだ。場所が悪いのかな。
Oh.
県外？
Oh dear. Suzuha looked at the screen on Mayuri's phone. There wasn't a single bar on the antenna.
おかしい。この場所ならいつだって電波は入ってた。
Suzuha took out her own phone to double check.
私のもだ。
When she saw that Mayuri was using a different cell carrier than her, she frowned.
嫌な予感がする。
Might want to hurry up then. She told Mayuri to hide behind the time machine and silently moved up against the iron door leading to the stairs. She opened it a crack, taking care not to let it creak. She looked inside the building. It was as quiet as ever. There was nothing on the floor below, but a room for events and some storerooms. So on weekdays like this, it was always quiet.
気のせいか。
No, do not think you're imagining it. She tilted her head sideways as she softly tried to close the door. Shit! God damn it! At Mayuri's scream, she turned around just in time to see armed agents in camouflage jumping over the fence. One of them had grabbed Mayuri.
外壁をよじ登ってきたのか。
Crap. Suzuha deeply regretted her mistake. She was well aware that someone could try to come up the walls, but the video from her dad had made her so excited she'd lowered her guard. They were about 30 men, all carrying small assault rifles. With Mayuri as their hostage, Suzuha couldn't do anything. One of the men gave her an order in a cold voice. He pulled Mayuri close and put the gun to her head, then flipped off the safety. Okay, this went bad. She had no choice but to obey. Suzuha took the gun out of her holster and put it on the ground, then took a pose where she couldn't resist.
喋らないで。こいつらいざとなれば本気で姉さんを殺すよ。私は大丈夫だから。
From the way they moved, she could easily tell they were veteran professionals. That meant they were certainly after the time machine and probably well aware that only Suzuha could operate it. That, Suzuha decided, meant they wouldn't kill her if they didn't have to. The man who had spoken to her first, who was probably the leader, knelt down next to her. She was searched, roughly, to make sure she wasn't carrying any other weapons.
これでも一応女なんだ。少しは気を使えよ。
They took the other small pistol she carried for emergencies, as well as several different kinds of knives. The leader spoke to the group of men gathering around the time machine. Several of the men had gone inside the machine as well. Leaving the hatch open had been Suzuha's own mistake, but still it upset her to see them inside the machine.
何をしても無駄だ。そいつは私じゃないと言うことを聞かない。
立て。
The leader kicked her with the heel of his boot.
ではそのままゆっくりとだ。少しでも余計な動きをしたら即座に人質を殺す。
When she stood up, her hands were handcuffed behind her back. They prodded her from behind to move her next to the machine.
生体認証だ。
そうだ。ただし、私の静脈や指紋をコピーしても無駄だ。手を切り落としたり、目玉をくり抜いたって認証には使えない。2036年のシステムはそんなに間抜けじゃない。
The men in camo seemed aware of everything she said. None of them seemed surprised or irritated.
教授はどうした？
The leader asked the man who was pointing the gun at Mayuri.
現在こちらに向かっているところです。
It is Alexis.
目標1は目標2とセットだ。洗脳しないと無理だと伝えろ。
Suzuha gritted her teeth when she heard the word brainwashing. She had seen many of her friends in Valkyrie undergo this cruel procedure, then be sent back as spies before turning into vegetables. The leader turned towards Suzuha.
洗脳の行き着く先は分かっているはずだ。教授は薬などは使わない。直接脳をいじられることになる。そうなる前に素直に我々に協力した方が利口だと思うんだ。
Eat a dick.
教授か。
Where she'd come from, an old doctor with that name had led a brainwashing team that had attempted to destroy Valkyrie. Suzuha had hated him more than anyone else. They hadn't used drugs either. It was safe to assume that both professors were the same person.
わかった。
She nodded.
言うことを聞く。だが、これじゃ無理だ。
Suzuha jangled the cuffs behind her back.
手錠は外す。ただし抵抗すればそっちの女が死ぬ。
There was still a gun pointed at Mayuri's head. Even if she tried to resist, it would be impossible to save Mayuri from this many professional soldiers. I really wish the Rounders were here now. When she went inside the cockpit, she used her biometrics to bypass the lock and brought up the control console. Lights came on all across the machine, and she could hear a low rumbling.
よし降りろ。あとは我々が調査する。
あんたたちに理解できるとは思えないけどね。
As Suzuha left the cockpit, the leader turned his gaze toward a particular cluster of the men, which seemed to be engineers. That was the moment she was waiting for. Her hand had wandered below the console for just a moment when she left the cockpit. She'd hidden some knives there. Without making a sound, she threw it at the leader. The knife pierced his throat. He went down so quickly he hadn't even had time to scream. She quickly readied another knife and darted between the men in camo. Her target was the man pointing a gun at Mayuri's head. She dropped her hips low to the ground. In an instant, she moved behind him and slit his throat. Blood poured out onto an astonished Mayuri, but there was no time to worry about her. She grabbed his rifle and fired a few shots to force him to the ground, then grabbed Mayuri's hand and ran behind the machine. The plan had gone well so far, but she had seriously underestimated how well trained these men were. The second in command quickly moved to the front and worked to re-establish control. All she had was a knife and the gun she'd stolen, and she needed to protect Mayuri, a non-combatant. She was still facing more than 25 active enemies. Whatever the right way to get out of this was, she couldn't find it. The time machine was still active. She couldn't escape because she couldn't leave it here. One of the men fired several rounds toward her, which bounced off the side of the machine. And then Mayuri's head flew back as if she'd been struck. A spurt of blood came out. Oh god, no. Her cute face was turning blood red. One of the rounds had grazed her after it had ricocheted. She was clutching herself with her arms, and her expression was completely blank. Her tiny body was shaking. Suzuha couldn't blame her. She fired back at the enemy, but they kept drawing closer. The time machine's maintenance hatch was right in front of her. When she saw that it was there, she visualized her last option in her mind. If she did that, all of her plans would be ruined. The path to Steins Gate would be forever closed. But that didn't mean she was cold-blooded enough to sacrifice Mayuri here. If the world lines were going to converge, maybe Mayuri wouldn't die here at all. But what her father had said during his video message bothered her.
しれないが、君とマユシの選択によって世界線はまた少し変動したんだ。つまり僕も君が出発した世界線とは違う別の世界線上の橋田至るということになる。
Which meant that Suzuha had no proof that Mayuri would be alive in 2036 now. Had the world line really changed? Of course, for the sake of Operation Arclight, she hoped it had, but that meant she wouldn't be able to move from this place.
最悪の事態を想定しろ。
The worst case scenario. That would be these men taking the time machine. Government's evil. They could turn the world line into something even worse than the one Suzuha had experienced. Which makes me glad that time machines aren't a thing. Yet, it might become a world line where not only Mayuri's life wasn't safe, but Daru's wasn't either. If that was going to happen, she had to make her choice fast. She kept a careful eye on the men, and as soon as she saw an opening, she opened the maintenance hatch's biometric lock. She could see part of the engine, which was still giving off a quiet rumble. She turned her gun sights on it. Fortunately, the unit that created the Kara black hole still wasn't active. Even if she blew up the machine here, it probably wouldn't cause serious damage to the space-time continuum. As soon as she saw that, she went to pull the trigger. And Mayuri's voice stopped her.
止めるな。もう決めたことだ。
Mayuri had stopped her once before, and once again she hesitated for just another instant. On the battlefield, that instant can decide your fate. She took a quick look around again, and then she froze. Mixed in with the men in camo was a girl in a dark motorcycle suit and a helmet.
あいつ、かがり。
Was it Kagari who had leaked this place's location to them? She was well aware of Kagari's abilities after their two battles. If she wasn't completely in control of herself, she'd be killed in an instantly. She talked to herself.
私が生き残るのは諦めざるを得ないな。
How many would she have to take with her in order to give Mayuri a chance to escape? Right now, the only thing she could afford to think about was getting Mayuri back to Okabe Rentaro. Just when she'd made her decision, she felt Kagari staring at her, or more precisely, the blood dripping down Mayuri's forehead. And just after that, Kagari did something she hadn't expected at all.
ママに何をした？
Oh! You should not have messed with Mama! There was a scream. No, it was the howl of an enraged beast. And then the slaughter began. Go, Kagari! Slaughter them all. Oh. Kagari grabbed the second-in-command's head with her left hand. With her right, she steadied her rifle. After she fired, there was very little left of his head. The rest of him dropped to the ground. You really shouldn't have hurt Mommy. She slammed the piece of tattered flesh that had once been a man's head into the ground, and with no warning at all, leaped from one screaming man to another. She fired her gun into every one of them. That's what happens when you hurt Mayuri.
ママに何をした？ママに何をした？何をしたんだ？
Even when her targets were already soaked in a sea of blood, she kept firing until all their limbs were blown apart into unrecognizable rags. Some of them tried shooting her to protect themselves, but no matter where she was struck, Kagari didn't even flinch. When her magazine ran dry, she drew forth long military-style cleavers. Holding one in each hand, she used them when her military combat trained to slaughter anyone she saw.
Their entrails were scattered all over the twilight rooftop, covering her whole body in blood and bits of flesh.
見るな、耳も塞いでろ。
Suzuha held Mayuri's head tight to her chest. Mayuri was shaking from fear, but she did as she was told and clamped her hands down over her ears. Even so, she could probably still hear the sounds of ripping flesh and shattering bone.
あんなのもう人間じゃない。
Even Suzuha had gone stone cold in shock. During all her time in combat, she'd never seen a one-sided slaughter like this. She'd experienced this when they fought, but Kagari seemed to feel no fear or pain. She simply focused all her energy on killing her opponent. It was often said that humans unconsciously avoided using all their muscle power to protect their own bodies. But Kagari seemed to lack that capability. Just now, she stabbed a man who turned to run from her in the back, then tossed his huge body to the ground with only a single arm. Then, she kicked his stomach from below and ruptured his organs, killing him. Slaughter them all. Finally, after several, perhaps a dozen or more, the men had been killed, what remained of the squad started to scream orders at one another. With her terrifying reflexes, she dodged between their shots and brutally murdered several more. But... Shit! At last, a hail of gunfire struck her left hand and the knife she was holding fell to the floor. No, that wasn't it. It wasn't the knife that fell. It was her entire left hand! Jesus! The shock caused her body to stagger back. Suzuha! Come on! Someone screamed in a voice that lacked any of the pride and bravery a soldier is supposed to possess. Several more bullets dug into her body. Parts of the motorcycle suit ripped open, and the helmet cracked. Blood that was clearly her own, not that of the men she had killed, began to pour out. At last, she fell into a pile of corpses.
Yes!
They must have thought they finally had her. One of the survivors pointed his gun down to finish her, and just as she was about to pull the trigger... Her bestial roar and the man's terrified scream overlapped in a horrible cacophony. God damn, Kagari! She forced herself to leap up and brought the back of the remaining cleaver down on his arm, knocking him back. An instant later, the knife slit his throat and ended his life. Don't let them retreat. The survivors began to flee in terror. Oh, damn it. Oh dear.
まだ時間はある。何も心配ない。鈴は無事だし、マユリだってそのうちひょっこりラボに戻ってくる。
After what she experienced, I hardly doubt it.
When I reached Radicon, I realized that many people in the crowd of pedestrians were holding their phones up to the sky. There was evidently no service near the station either. I took a moment to catch my breath as I looked up at Radicon.
I could hear what sounded like a distant explosion. It wasn't just one. The explosions were coming in a series. Several of the people around me were glancing at their surroundings, confused by those unfamiliar sounds. And then I realized. That was gunfire. I remembered the sounds I'd heard during the battle between CERN's Rounders and the Russian military. The sounds were coming from the roof of Radicon. Had I not made it in time? I ran into Radicon. For some reason, the elevator was under maintenance and turned off. I had no choice but to take the stairs. My heart was pounding so fast that I thought it would burst, and I tripped several times due to how tense I was. I stumbled again and again on the stairs. How many times did I come up these stairs feeling like this? Cursing my lack of endurance, I headed for the top floor. When I got to the 7th floor, I ran into someone I'd hoped I wouldn't see. No. My guess that I'd run into them was right. I wished that I wasn't, but... Crap! You...
まさかこんなに早く君が来るとは思わなかったよ。
Dr. Alexis seemed perturbed when he saw my face.
どうしてここに？
少し落ち着きなさい。そんなに息が切れていたのでは話もできないよ。
どうしてここにいるんです？アマデウスはどうなったんです？
君に頼んだサンプリングテストは半年前に終わっている。話すことはできないな。
That was his answer. Even though Amadeus had disappeared, Alexis was extremely calm. There was no sign of him trying to deal with the problem, and instead of being in his office, he was here. That was all I needed to know.
クリスが俺に送ってきたメッセージの内容は本当だったんですね。
The father that she'd spoken of was Alexis after all.
クリスや魔法どうしたんです？彼女たちの記憶データを解析してタイムマシンに関するデータを取り出すつもりなんでしょう。
驚いたな。クリスはそこまで君に話してしまったのか。監視していたつもりだったが、いつの間にそんな真似を。
Alexis seemed truly shocked, which meant he hadn't noticed that Kurisu was an A-channeler or that she'd spoken to me there. He's got a gun!
And then Alexis took out a gun and pointed it at me.
君は少し踏み込みすぎたようだ。
Shit!
あなたは何者なんだ？
I'm the bad guy.
科学者だよ。だが、科学者も実践事業ではないのでね。君はストラテジックフォーカス社というアメリカの民間情報機関を知っているかな？
Stratfor.
ストラテジックフォーカス社。アメリカのストラトフォーカ。
I'd read about them on a conspiracy theory website. I remembered reading that they'd acquired top-secret information on Russian ballistic missiles that even the CIA couldn't get, and then sold it. The result was the destruction of the CIA's reputation. And at the same time, the total reorganization of Russia's military strategy. I'd even heard rumors that during the Gulf and Iraq wars they'd obtained information about the warring countries faster than anyone, and spread it as needed.
世界から影の CIA などと呼ばれているのが私たちだよ。
So is he going to use Amadeus for military purposes? Was everything he'd said at that seminar just platitudes and lies?
まあ、私のことはどうでもいいだろう。それよりリンターロ、勝美から聞いたのだが、君も例の新型脳炎を発症しているそうだね。それどころか、新型脳炎そのもののメカニズムについて何か知っているらしいじゃないか。実に興味深い。君の持つその情報をぜひ提供してくれないか。
Hell no!
何？簡単な施術を受けてくれるだけでいいんだ。
How about no?
そうすれば、私は君を助手として迎え入れてもいい。
For some reason, my whole body broke out in goosebumps at the word procedure. The Dr. Alexis I knew, The man with the childlike, mischievous heart and deep scientific curiosity. The man who'd been so kind to me. The man I'd respected was gone. In his place was the cruel, scientific fundamentalist who thought nothing of human lives or hearts as he pointed a gun at me. Nor was this who he truly was. Suddenly he seemed like a terrifying unknown.
どうかな?
He took a step towards me. And then... another fierce gunfight broke out above. Alexis clicked his tongue at the sound. He glanced towards the stairs.
なぜ銃撃戦になっているんだ? 穏便に済ませろとあれほど!
Dynamo Kabe! I took advantage of the distraction. Luckily, I was still on the staircase. I tackled his legs as hard as I could, and he lost his balance and fell. Yes! He hit his head hard on one of the steps, and after a moment's jerk, he stopped moving at all. Take the gun! He might be dead, but I didn't care anymore. I'd become a murderer many times over already. Did you take his gun? Apparently he did not. When I opened the door, what I saw was vision from the heart of hell itself. There was blood everywhere, and bodies too.
なんだこれ
In the middle of the sea of blood was a girl in a motorcycle suit and helmet, covered in crimson as she lay on the ground. She held a giant cleaver. I could see instantly that she was responsible for this disaster. Her shoulders moved up and down a little, so evidently she was still alive. I approached the woman, trying my best not to throw up from the stench.
大丈夫ママ
Agane. I could hear her voice from beneath the cracked, broken helmet. I looked closer and saw that some of the blood was her own. Her body was racked by bullet wounds, and her left hand was completely gone. It was a miracle that she had somehow survived all that. She didn't seem to notice me as she slowly crawled through the blood. I followed her gaze and saw Mayuri huddled beneath the time machine. Suzuha seemed to be unhurt, but there was blood on Mayuri's face. I hadn't expected to see her here, and I was worried about her wound, but more than anything, I was glad she was safe. She raised her face when she heard my voice, but the next moment her eyes locked on the girl in the motorcycle suit. She saw the thing crawling toward her and screamed.
ママ違うのこれはだってかがりは本当は人殺しなんてするつもりじゃなくってただママを守ろうとして
Kagari! Did she say Kagari? It was only then that I realized that the girl in the motorcycle suit was the Shina Kagari that Suzuha had been looking for.
ごめんなさいママかがりもういい
Suzuha yelled, unable to take any more.
もういいから動くな死ぬぞお前かがりはねママに怖い思いをさせようなんて思ってなかったんだよ本当だよかがりはただママを助けなくちゃってだからママお願いかがりを嫌いにならないでお願いママごめんなさい許して
At last her strength failed and she collapsed. I returned to my senses and ran to her before Suzuha could get there.
おい大丈夫か
Her breathing was wheezy and shallow. One of the bullets had probably pierced her lungs. I thought taking off her helmet would help her breathe, so I put my hand on it to remove it. But she grabbed my hand and pushed it away.
やめて取らないでママと鈴葉お姉ちゃんの前ではお願い岡部さん
Her voice, and the way she talked. I realized who this girl called Shina Kagari was. I looked close. So I recognized her face.
そんな君はなぜ
オカリンおじさん、かなりは
What?
来るな
I quickly motioned Suzuha to keep her distance. It...
こっちは任せろ。お前は前よりを頼む。前よりの傷は大丈夫なのか確認してくれ。
She looked upset but did as I asked. She went back to Mayuri and started to look at her wounds. Yuri was covering her face and trying not to look at the bodies.
大丈夫。マユ姉さんの傷は深くない。
I relaxed a little when I heard that.
よかった。ママ、無事だったんだ。よかった。
Kagari's voice was a whisper as I cradled her in my arms. And then she slowly closed her eyes. Her breathing got weaker.
しっかりしろ。君はなんで。
大丈夫。心配しないで。私、こうなっても痛くも苦しくもないから。いつも神様の声が聞こえるの。君は痛くならないよ、苦しくならないよって。だから全然岡部さんには伝えておくね。本物は何も知らないです。3年前からヨーロッパに留学中だから。
Oh my...
教授が私を秋葉原へ送り込むために裏で手を回して。
Oh my god.
本物は本当に何も知らない。
教授だって。
Did she mean?
この世界線では本当は来年なんですよ。橋田さんと本物が出会うのは。
Kagari opened her eyes a little once more and looked toward the time machine, toward Mayuri and Suzuha.
大丈夫。きっと本物も橋田さんのこと好きになります。私と同じように。言っちゃった。誰にも内緒ですよ。
This time, her smile still shining in her eyes, they closed for real. With one final shudder, the strength left her body. The life faded away in my hands. There was so much I wanted to ask her. Why had she appeared before us using that name? There were so many things I didn't understand. Ashina Kagari's life ended in that moment.
オカリンおじさん、かがりは無事？
I came back to my senses when I heard her voice. If I told her about Kagari's death, it would cause her a lot of mental stress. That wasn't a good idea. Right now, I needed to do something about the time machine as fast as possible.
大丈夫だ。この子は俺が病院へ連れて行く。
I slung Kagari's bloody body around my shoulders and stood up.
鈴葉は 急いでタイムマシンを停止させて偽装しろ。もうじき警察がここへ。
もう遅いよ。
Shit! Before I could open the door, a huge shadow appeared from within. You! He wasn't dead? But he must have taken a lot of damage to the head because his face was the color of clay and one of his eyes wasn't focusing.
すぐにここは戦場になる。アメリカもロシアも日本も動き出してしまった。一度回り出した歯車はもう止められない。かがりがもっと早く我々に報告していれば、ここまで事態は悪化することもなかったもの。
Alexis knew about Kagari? Which meant that I was right. But Suzuha spoke before I could.
そうか。お前が教授か。かがりを洗脳したのはお前だな。
そうなんですか。あなたはそういう人だったんですか。
別にこの私が何かしたわけじゃない。
Alexis didn't try to deny it.
むしろ10年ほど前、路頭に迷っていた彼女を助けてここまで育つよう援助してあげたんだよ。
援助って普通に生活してた。彼女がこんな風になるはずないじゃないか。
そんなに怒鳴らないでくれないか。頭が割れそうにいたもんだ。
Like I give a shit!
嘘じゃない。彼女は自分の方から私に接触してきて、整形までしてこの町に潜り込んだのも彼女のプランだよ。何でも頭の中の神様が全て教えてくれるんだそうだ。最初私はホームレスの子供が食べ物欲しさにくだらない作り話をしているんだと思ったんだよね。彼女の脳や記憶を調べてみると非常に興味深く素晴らしいことが分かった。その神様というのはね。
And even as his face twisted in pain, he smiled proudly.
その神様というのはなんと未来の2036年の私だったんだよ。
あんたは本当のマッドサイエンティストだ。
And not the good kind. Suddenly I heard a siren down below. Just hearing the sound made me feel uneasy. I'd never heard a sound like it before.
なんだこれ。
ゲリラ攻撃情報、ゲリラ攻撃情報。当地域にゲリラ攻撃の可能性があります。屋内に避難し、テレビ、ラジオをつけてください。
But I heard that announcement coming from the speakers of the street. What? A guerrilla attack information. One type of instantaneous national alert. J-alert system. In case of an emergency like a large-scale disaster or armed attack, the J-alert system uses communication satellites to automatically activate all disaster warning systems in the country and warn the populace. When activated, the J-alert triggers a series of loudspeakers and sirens placed all around the country. There are several different types, such as an emergency earthquake alert, Tokai earthquake alert, tsunami, eruption, weather alert, ballistic, missile, air raid, guerrilla, and special force attack alerts, and a terrorism alert. Oh. A guerrilla attack? I could hear several helicopters in the sky above me. Their engines were clearly more powerful than the ones in the media's news choppers. I recognized the sound from the time I'd spent in the wartime world line.
言っただろう。ここは間もなくタイムマシンを奪い合う戦場と化すんだ。
第三次世界大戦が始まるのか。
まさかこの町の住民も自分たちの都市の中心から世界戦争が始まるとは夢にも思っていないだろうね。
And then Alexis leaned up against a wall, sat down, and stopped moving. Whether he'd passed out or gone into a coma from the brain damage, I didn't have time to find out. It was like the air in the city had gotten heavier. That's how it felt. A chill ran down my spine. I'd spent a month at war in that world line. The same future was about to begin here. Something like that couldn't happen in Japan. It was like a TV show or a movie. But I knew instinctively that this wasn't fiction. There had been signs since 6 months ago. Okay, that is fucking mess. That is horrifying. Literally, future Alexis contacted past Alexis through Kagari. Spies and soldiers from all around the world have been working in the shadows. That is so fucked up! He really is a bad guy. So I'd known this would happen. By refusing Suzuha's request and choosing the world line where Mayuri survived, I doomed over 5 billion people. I was the one who chose this. It was me. I looked and saw that Suzuha was pushing Mayuri into the time machine.
こうなったら私たちはこのまま過去へジャンプする。かがりのことを頼んだよ。
Suzuha had no idea that Kagari was already dead. She leaped into the cockpit. I'd raced over and grabbed onto the hatch, then looked inside.
過去ってまさか1年前あの日へ行くのかこんな急に
急ってわけじゃないんだ。それにあの日へは飛ばない。
She was tapping commands into the console as she spoke.
何あの日へは飛ばないってどういう。
ちょっとまゆ姉さんを借りるよ。
Mayuri was already strapped into a seat. Just like I was when I jumped a year ago with Suzuha.
マユリお前。
あかり。
I heard fierce gunfire and screams in the distance. It looked like some of the spies had started fighting each other. Kagari may have just wiped out a force from one nation, but an army from an entirely different one was still coming. Mayuri handed me a smartphone. I took it without thinking.
つながらないからこれ預けるね。メール読んで。マユシーの気持ちだから。
ちょっと待て。なんでお前が行くんだ。お前が行ったって結果は同じだ。何もできない。それに今飛んだら戻ってこられない。違うの。
オカリンじゃダメなの。これはね、マユシーの役目だから。
わからない。俺にはさっぱりわからない。頼む、降りてくれマユリ。お前まで因果の輪から外れたら俺は何のためにこの世界線を選んだのか。
オカリン。
Mayuri gently rubbed my cheek, and she smiled sadly. She softly pushed my shoulder. It threw me off balance and made me let go of the hatch. Then the hatch closed. It was too late. By the time I grabbed back on, the hatch was sealed shut. The door control were biometric. Only Suzuha could open it now. The time machine started to roar. A pale light began to gather around it. I'd seen this before in the Alpha World line. Just then, a group of armed men kicked open the door and swarmed onto the roof. They were highly trained military operatives. And then an attack helicopter descended from the skies. The soldiers started to shoot at it, but the helicopter seemed to ignore them as it slowly hovered in place. I realized the powerful rocket launchers on either side of its body were aimed at me. No, the time machine. It couldn't be. But my worst fears were realized. The helicopter fired its rockets. They headed straight for the time machine. It was still there, shrouded in light. The second I yelled, a powerful blast blew me back. The next thing I knew, I was crawling on the ground. I saw that some of the soldiers had already joined the mound of corpses on the ground, and some of them were still shooting at the helicopter. I stood up as fast as I could. My whole body felt like it was on fire. My skin was burnt in places. My clothes had been blasted off. No, my own problems didn't matter. What about the time machine? I looked up toward where the time machine had been. If it had jumped in time, it should have been able to avoid the rockets. But... there were scraps of metal everywhere. I could tell they belonged to the time machine. Had I not made it in time?
Suzuha. Mayuri?
I looked around in the cloud of smoke.
Na, Mayuri. Doko da?
Mayuri! Suzuha! 返事をしてくれ!
There were bodies everywhere, but I couldn't see Mayuri or Suzuha. I couldn't even tell if they were alive or dead. There were no bodies. They'd simply vanished. After that, things went far beyond my power to control. Brutal battles took place on the ground and in the sky of Akihabara. I'd seen footage of war in the Middle East on the news. Those same scenes were playing out in Akihabara. I managed to slip through the chaos of the battle and barely escaped Radicon with my life. I had no choice but to leave Kagari's body. I took the long way back to the lab so that no one would find me. By the time I arrived, the sun had set. The night sky was illuminated with explosions and tracer rounds. The whole of Akihabara was like someone had poked a beehive. The lights were out at the lab. But inside I found Daru, Maho, and Fair staring at the TV and computer monitor.
Okarin!
岡部さん、よく無事で。ってひどい怪我してる。大丈夫なの？
戦闘に巻き込まれたん？
急いで手当てしないと。
I didn't have the energy to answer them. I looked toward the footage on the TV screen. The reporter was wearing a bulletproof vest and hard hat. He was screaming at the top of his lungs, trying to drown out the reporters from the other stations.
まるで戦争です。秋葉原駅前や中央通りはすでに閉鎖されて、米軍と自衛隊のヘリや装甲車が、今またものすごい発砲音が聞こえました。ここは本当に日本なのでしょうか。まるで内戦中の国の取材をしているようです。政府の発表ではテロということですが、こんな。
And then a stray shot from an anti-material rifle, fired by a special forces team from some country or another, struck the news van's engine and blew it up.
爆発した！爆発が起きました！死にたいのか？今すぐ逃げろ！もう戦争なんだ！本当に死ぬぞ！
An SDF soldier forced his way onto the screen and yelled at the media to run away.
戦争ってどことですか？知るか？
Just after that, I heard another explosion, and the video was cut off. Did they take a direct hit? Everyone fell silent.
ここも危ないわね。お家には帰れない。
ネットの情報も大混乱中なんだよ。なあオカリン、セズハは？あとマユシは見つかったん？セズハとマユリは、セズハとマユリは過去へ飛んだのか。
死んだのか、どっちかだ。
Daru stormed up to me, infuriated.
どういうことだよ。もっとちゃんと教えてくれ。
戦闘ヘリがタイムマシンにロケットランチャーを。
You didn't find any bodies, so there's still a chance that they're still alive, you know?
タイムマシンは破壊されて、それに鈴葉と真由里が乗ってて、過去へ飛ぶ直前だったんだ。マシンの残骸は残ってたけど、全部じゃなくて、ラブ、どれだけ探しても鈴葉も真由里も死体が見つからなかったんだ。体の一部さえ残ってなかった。まるで跡形もなく消えたみたいに。あの二人ちゃんと過去に止めたのかな。
I hope. The tears I tried so hard to hold back came pouring out. Daru fell to his knees. Ferris and Maho were staring at me, eyes wide in shock. Daru slammed his fist under the floor. I tried to wipe away my tears and realized I was holding something in my right hand. It was the cell phone that Mayuri had given me. She told me to read the message on it. It wasn't locked. I opened the mail folder. There were several unsent messages addressed to her friends and family. One of them was addressed to me. Is this what she wanted me to read? With shaking fingers, I tapped the screen to open the message.
ず。だから私は行ってきます。必ず戻ります。オカリンのところへ戻ってきます。少しだけ待っててね。私は法王院教務のことが好き。でもね、岡部倫太郎のことはもっと好きだよ。
お前忘れてるだろ。お前は俺の人質なんだぞ。いなくなったら人質にならないじゃないか。何かあったら助けに来いだと。人質のくせに生意気だろ。狂気のマッドサイエンティストがお前なんかのために。お前なんかのために。お前はバカだ。でももっとバカだったのはこの俺だ。
My heart was in pain. It hurt so much. It was just like after I'd killed Kurisu. Maybe I'd be better off if I just fell over and died. I would do anything to be released from this pain. But in the corner of my tear-blurred vision, I saw it. Ohin Kyoma's final weapon. His last hope. No. It was the thing that had brought me so many nightmares. I staggered to the development room and threw off the cardboard that was covering it. There it was. The phone wave. Name subject to change, Unit 02. The thing that Maru, Maho, and Daru have been working on behind my back. If I could complete this... I turned around, wiped away my tears, and saw my friends looking depressed in the middle of the darkened room.
お前たちタイムリープマシンの作り方がわからないと言ったな。俺の言う通りにしてくれるか。クリスの導き出した回をお前たちに伝える。それでタイムリープマシンは起動する。
Maho said the one thing she didn't know was how to compress the memory data, which means that everything else was finished, and I knew how to complete it. Daru was the first to nod.
僕やるよ。教えてくれ、オカリン。
私も手伝うわ。決まりだにゃ。
All three responded with no hesitation. They turned toward me and spoke their answers clearly.
よし。ダル、セルンにハッキングをかけてくれ。LHC を遠隔操作する。そこで記憶データを36バイトまで小さくする。それなら過去へ転送できる。
たったの36バイト。
You could tell she was a scientist by the way her face went pale at the number.
けどさ、なんか動作が不安定で、こいつただの電子レンジになっちゃう時があって。
ブラウン管工房の42型ブラウン管。それが点灯している時に電話レンジカッコ仮は機能を発揮する。
ブラウン管。あ、そうか。
Just the words CRT were enough for her to figure it out. The life was coming back to their eyes.
それなら完成させられるかも。でも完成したとしていきなり使うつもり？何の実証もせずに 人体実験まがいのことをするなんて。
自分の作ったものに自信が持てないのか。
でも
別の世界線でクリスはやってみせたぞ。
それはクリスだからよ。私はあの子にはなれないわ。
アットチャンネルに書かれたクリスのメッセージを見ただろう。
Tell her that she was always the person I wanted to be. Lastly, I'd like you to pass a message to the person I respect the most. I always regarded myself as an essentially ordinary intellect. And you were always the person I wanted to be. You were the real Amadeus.
クリスにあそこまで言わせたんだ。なのに逃げる気か。
逃げたりなんかしないわよ。見くびらないで。
I nodded back and smoothed back my hair, which had been mussed by the explosion.
今日な、これ。
Ferris brought me my white lab coat, which had been hanging for ages on the wall in the development room. I bit down on my lip and wiped away the tears one more time. I took the lab coat and slipped my arms through the sleeves. I spun around so that the hem of the coat flew up, and stood triumphantly in the center of the lab, just as I used to. And then I declared in a loud voice,
これより電話レンジカッコ仮2号機を完成させタイムリープを行う。俺に力を貸してくれ。今度こそ俺は絶対に諦めない。
I looked at Daru and Ferris and finally at Maho.
たとえ何回何十回何百回ダメだったとしても、何千回何万回何億回と挑んで何もかも全て救ってみせる。鈴葉もマユリも、そしてクリスもだ。これはその最初の一歩となる。
For the first time in a year, I was back to my old self. My friends saw me and nodded, their faces filled with resolve. It took almost 2 full days to finish work on the phone wave. Meanwhile, the chaos in Akihabara continued and it wasn't safe to go outside. Working on the time leap machine while knowing that the battles might reach us at any minute, or that a special forces team might burst in at any time, was a hard job that wore on our nerves. But still, we managed to finish the machine somehow. I jumped. Oh. Oh. Next thing I knew, I was staying in the middle of an Akihabara alleyway. I was holding a cell phone in my hand. I had a nasty headache and there was a stinging pain in my neck. I felt a pain on one side of my head like a migraine headache. The left side of my face hurt really bad. My vision flashed with dark and bright spots. I took a look around. The alley was still peaceful. I heard no gunshots and no explosions. The otaku were enjoying their shopping, and girls in maid outfits were calling out to passerby. That alone was enough to tell me for sure that the time leap was a success. I looked at the time on my smartphone. July 7th, 5:45 p.m. I had around 40 to 50 minutes before the war began. That still wasn't enough, but the 48-hour limit of the time leap machine meant this was as far as I could go. No point in getting negative. If the machine had been finished just a little later, it would have been too late. I should be glad to have made it here at all. I knew what I'd been doing at this time. I was running around Akihabara looking for Mayuri. First, I needed to call Maho. And, that's actually where I'm going to end it. I do not have time to continue, and oh Jesus, that actually went way beyond my time limit, actually, I think. Also, it's not like I'm tired from a 10-hour workday, but after that emotional hit, I don't think I'm mentally prepared for what's about to happen next. I am so sorry that I'm ending it here, but I am just emotionally drained right now. Damn it, my Yuri, why do you make me feel this way? But anyway, I'm sorry, and I'm just gonna... I just need a moment to kind of calm my own nerves, and I'm just gonna go now. That was extremely emotional. I was not ready for the twist about Kaguri. I was not ready for that. I did not even expect that. But now it suddenly makes some sense now. And now my head hurts, so I'm just gonna end it here. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next episode. I'm getting a new Steins Gate.